From initially earning $150 per acting gig, Hollywood's favorite potty-mouth superhero has come a long way. These days, Ryan Reynolds sits in the industry's top echelon, raking in the cash from big-ticket films and clever investments, and boasting an overflowing bank balance to prove it. But just as money flows in, it flows out. As you'll quickly realize, Ryan loves his motorcycles. He also loves his wife, his fashion, his gin, and his wireless phone plans. Nothing's too weird when it comes to Ryan Reynolds' spending habits. So how did Deadpool himself manage to spend close to $100 million? Time to find out. Since landing his first professional acting job at the tender age of 12, it's been a momentous, wild, and topsy-turvy rise to fame for our beloved Canadian-born profanity-slinging superhero. With 83 IMDb credits and counting, our favorite Ryan, sorry Gosling, we're not talking about you this time. Yes, Ryan Reynolds has propelled himself up into the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. He's come a long way from the $150 per episode he made for his first gig on the Nickelodeon show 15. Compared to the $2 million in base salary for starring in Deadpool, 150 measly bucks seems like a penny under the couch. But for young Ryan, it made him feel like a gajillionaire, as he said so himself. As he matured in age, though perhaps not in attitude, Ryan nailed appearances in The Marshal, The X-Files, and The John Larroquette Show, and then Van Wilder and The Proposal a few years later. And once he hit superhero territory, he had grasped Hollywood with both hands. These days, thanks to Deadpool, Green Lantern, and a number of off-screen ventures, Ryan has managed to amass an astounding net worth budging on the $100 million mark. In 2019, he made at least $27 million alone, putting his earnings above the likes of Jennifer Lawrence. But as fast as the money comes in, it goes out, with Ryan writing some seriously large checks. Despite being a Hollywood big shot, these days he's more of an East Coast homebody. One of those seriously large checks went to his house in Pound Ridge, New York, which he shares with the one and only Blake Lively and their 2 kids. Let's take a look, shall we? Situated about an hour's drive from the chaos of Midtown Manhattan, this McMansion covers 4,753 square feet and features a custom stone terrace overlooking the water, a 2-bedroom guest suite, and a big old brick wall to evade the paparazzi. On top of that, there's 1.8 acres of land for the little kids and the bigger kids to roam around in. They bought the pad back in 2012, forking out a cool $2.35 million. Before Ryan and Blake got hitched, as you'd probably know, he was knocking boots with Scarlett Johansson. Who remembers those days? Anyway, Ryan and ScarJo bought a house together back in the day. This beautiful home, known as the Wong House in Los Feliz, just next to Hollywood, boasting a saltwater pool, extensive glass windows, and even a private master suite. It comes as no surprise to hear that Mr. Deadpool himself spent $2 million on it. However, when the inevitable divorce rolled around, it was sold. Okay, so when you noticed that this video was about Ryan Reynolds, be honest, which film came to mind right off the bat? Let us know in the comments. If 9 out of 10 answers aren't Deadpool, we'll eat our hat. The first Deadpool film proved to be a mammoth hit, making a total of over $782 million off a budget of only $58 million. But did you know that if not for Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool may have not succeeded at all? Out of his very own pocket, Reynolds paid for the on-set presence of 2 of Deadpool's screenwriters. But why? Well, because, as most die-hard superhero comic fans would say, Deadpool's performance in X-Men Origins Wolverine was far from memorable. The character was portrayed as a sulking mutant with his mouth sewn shut. Ryan did not want a repeat of that. He wanted to reintroduce the character the way it was meant to be portrayed, as a wisecracking, hyperactive lunatic. And that's why he paid thousands of dollars to ensure that the writers were on set, ready to keep the vision of the comic intact. Clearly, it worked, because fans were over the moon. It paved the way for Deadpool 2 to gross over $785 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing R-rated film in history. That was, however, until Joker surpassed it in 2019. Alright, back to Ryan. If you had money to burn, what would you buy? For many celebs, the answer to that question is cars. Fancy, very expensive cars, and usually way more of them than any single human needs. While he hasn't splurged on Ferraris just yet, he has indeed handed over a few bucks for his many sets of wheels. We've seen Ryan driving around in a 2011 Cadillac Escalade with a price tag close to $64,000. When he's been feeling a little more environmentally friendly, he's taken his Nissan Leaf for a spin. The Leaf these days starts at $31,600. but Ryan actually became a spokesperson for Nissan back in 2012, so we're sure he would have gotten a discount. Before he joined Team Leaf, he'd been seen cruising around in a 2011 Toyota Prius, worth upwards of $22K. Then there's the 2012 Chevrolet Equinox that Ryan and Blake were using to skip around Vancouver a few years ago. Those go for upwards of $24K. It's not all people movers and planet-conscious cars, though. Deadpool's also got one in the garage for a bit of fun. The $50,000 plus Dodge Challenger SRT. You might see all these and think, oh boy, Reynolds is a car man. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, he has splurged thousands of dollars time and time again on motorcycles. Yep, Ryan's a biker dude. Ryan Reynolds has been building his professional vehicle collection for over a decade, and it's chock full of two-wheelers. His personal favorite, probably the Triumph Tiger. Purchasable for close to $15,000, while it might be his bike of choice, it's not his most expensive. That medal goes to the Ducati SC1000, which can be found second-hand these days for more than $30,000 depending on the condition. On top of that, we've got the 1975 Honda CB750, the Triumph Bonneville, and the Ducati GT1000. Perhaps most remarkable, though, is the 1964 Triumph 650, known as the 9 o'clock gun, which was rebuilt specifically for Ryan. When Mr. Reynolds is not blowing cash on cars, bikes, or houses, he's spoiling his better half. As we know, Ryan's now been married twice, to Scarlett Johansson back in 2008 and to Blake Lively years later in 2012. Keep in mind, these were both after he called off his engagement to Alanis Morissette. Scarlett and Ryan had a secluded hush-hush wedding in a remote wilderness retreat outside of Vancouver, just 4 months after their engagement was announced. The Lively wedding, on the other hand, was, well, lively, held in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, in front of about 70 guests. Attendees munched on $3,000 wedding cake that was driven in from 3 states over. Meanwhile, Florence and the Machine performed at the reception. A bill upwards of $50,000 would not have been out of the question for this extravaganza. What was the center of attention at said wedding? Yep, a ring. A very, very expensive ring. If his charm and humor wouldn't have won Blake over, this beauty of a piece of jewelry would have done so on its own. It's estimated that Ryan forked out, are you ready for this, around $2 million on the engagement ring. What kind of bling costs that much? Well, we'll tell you. A 12-carat oval-cut diamond set in rose gold and surrounded by a number of smaller pave diamonds around the band. Clearly, Ryan's got a bit of an affinity for splurging on Blake because he didn't stop after the engagement ring. While nowhere near as expensive, at just $950, Reynolds got his lovely lady this gold ring that simply says, Mrs. R. It's 14-karat yellow gold, and as you can tell, she's been happy to wear it in public. And say, what's the last thing you got for Valentine's Day? Because odds are it was not as exuberant as the 18-karat rose gold diamond set of earrings from Anita Ko that Ryan bought for Blake. Shaped like Cupid's arrows, these accessories would have set him back about $1,700, a mere dent in his ever-fattening wallet. On a broader scale, Reynolds has always looked for creative ways to reinvest his money. One of those, strangely enough, was through a wireless phone company. In November of 2019, Reynolds became the owner of Mint Mobile, which focuses on budget-friendly phone plans. His motto, peppered with classic Reynolds humor, is as follows, quote, while every other tech titan is off chasing rockets, I'll corner the budget-friendly wireless sector. Like most people, I only use rockets 10-12 times a year, but I use my mobile device every single day. End quote. Through Mint Mobile, Ryan's bought out an entire one-page ad in the New York Times, as well as orchestrating an interesting Super Bowl promo. While other companies were spending over $5 million on Super Bowl ads, he took a different approach and offered 3 months of service for free for everyone that signed up before the end of the big game. That freebie would have set him back a couple of $1,000,000 for sure, in addition to the multi-millions he spent buying majority shares in the company. Perhaps a little more Reynolds-esque than a wireless phone company, our favorite actor also owns a sizable stake of Aviation American Gin. As a proud owner, Ryan's been seen frequently breaking out the spirit during interviews, more than happy to share the love around. Why'd he decide on gin? In his very own words, quote, I did this for one simple reason. It's the best damn gin on the planet, end quote. You heard it here first, folks. Supposedly, Ryan spent upwards of $600,000 to make the deal happen when he gained significant partial ownership back in 2018. Let's move away from the business side for a moment and focus on something else that Ryan is just as proud of, his wardrobe. The Green Lantern himself has opened his wallet on a number of occasions in the name of fashion. We witnessed a classic, sleek tux at the 2014 Met Gala and an extravagant true blue look at the same event 3 years later. Although, let's be honest, Blake stole the show that time. We've seen the suave black and white suit with a white bow tie combo and even the three-piece come out to play on more than one occasion. Whenever Ryan's in the public eye, he always dresses to the nines. All up, whether renting or buying, it's tens of thousands of dollars worth of style. Throw in charitable donations, costs of producing films, endless travel, and the price of raising 2 kids. And it's easy to see how this superstar actor spent almost $100 million over the years.